Welcome to the Center for the Challenging Child. I'm Tina Feigal, and I am the parent coach here. I also train other people to be parent coaches and do a lot of speaking for groups who want to hear about how to handle challenging child behavior. Today we have Caroline as our guest. Thank you for being here very much, Caroline.
Welcome.
And she is a parent coach client, and she has a story to tell about her wonderful son, Christopher.
Well, thank you, Tina, for inviting me to share with you and with everyone who's watching the story of what has happened to my son in one short year. And I say short because it seems like the problems were going to last a lifetime. I felt that our son was headed for a real difficult time in school, real difficult time developing peer relationships, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And here it is, just one short year later, and I feel like I have a new child. He has transformed into his true self. And as Tina likes to say, the real Christopher is bubbling to the surface. And I am so overjoyed to be here to tell you a little bit about the process of how I went from here to there. And it started last June when we went on a family vacation with family members that we don't see very often from out of town, and cousins and grandmas and grandpas. And when we got home, I was very upset because Christopher's behavior throughout the 3-day time together was very disruptive for all of us. And it made it very difficult for the whole family to be able to function. For instance, if we were in the hotel room, he was interrupting conversations, using his body to run around the room and couldn't calm down, wasn't able to sit at the table at the restaurant, using very high-pitched voice, interacting with people in a way that was telling us he's not at peace. He's not able to enjoy socializing.
And when you say he was interacting in a way that showed that he wasn't at peace, what kinds of things was he saying to the relatives and to siblings? And you have 2 younger sons, too. You want to talk about them a little bit, too?
Okay, we have twins who are now 3 at the time they were 2, and Christopher is now 5, and at the time he was 4. And he would, and then his cousins are their same age. Benjamin is 6 and Jonathan is 4, so it's very similar. And he was not able to play with Benjamin and Jonathan. All he was able to do was to ruin their play. If they were playing with Legos, he would interrupt their play by smashing their project. When William and Jeffrey are able to play quite easily together, when they were trying to go to bed, and be quiet in bed, he was jumping on the bed and talking in a loud voice, being in the bathtub, jumping up and down in the bathtub, splashing the water out of the bath, all those kinds of things that really irritate you as a parent and are very embarrassing in front of other family members that your own child is acting that way. And the other thing, when we were leaving the facility that we were at a conference, there was a willow tree, and he grabbed the branches of the willow tree, and he's swinging back and forth on the willow tree, and all we were trying to do was walk to the car. And it's little things like that, but I didn't want him to be doing that when we were walking to the car. And I asked him to stop, and he wouldn't stop. And when I was with Christopher with my in-laws, we were sitting out on the lawn in a chair, and he was pushing the chair over, the chair he was supposed to be sitting in. And they were observing this, and I was trying to help. I was trying to get him to stop doing that, but not very effectively. And when I got home, I got a phone call from my father-in-law that said, well, Caroline, what we have observed is Christopher escalates in his behavior, and as his mother, you are not able to calm him down. So instead of coming to you for reassurance and for answers and to get a sense of control, he is more out of control around you. And
oh boy,
that was really hard to hear.
I guess that would just be unbelievable.
I mean, it was very hard to hear. It felt like an insult, but it also felt like loving input at the same time, because I know how much they love me. I know how much they love Christopher. And I felt like somebody gave me the baseline for the reason why I need some help. And it was something I could communicate to you, Tina, when I called Tina and I Googled parent coach, and Tina's website came up, and I read all the things on her website, listened to some of your audio programs on your website, and made an appointment with you. I thought it was exactly what I needed.
I'm so glad you did too. So let's fast forward into the process of what did you do in sort of the middle of the coaching period that we've shared.
Well, one thing that really stands out about the coaching experience is the direct lines and the dialogue that you give me as a parent to use with Christopher. And it's really wonderful because in the sessions you have the pencil and the pad right there, and I take notes throughout the whole session. And I would tell you the problem and the behavior that's going on, and you would say to me, okay, the next time you see Christopher, this is what I want you to say to him. And when you put him to bed tonight, this is what I want you to say to him. And I wrote all these things down, and I didn't have my notes with Christopher, but I would run into the other room, read the notes, and I would go use your dialogue with my child, which I felt was a real godsend. And I think that's the biggest change that happened in our relationship, is I was able to change what I was saying to my son because of your help and your background and your expertise. Because I've been in sales and marketing for 18 years. I have been in the workplace. I haven't been parenting. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond to him. And I was very much in the market and very willing to say, I need help. And I feel like I got help on a bi-weekly basis from you, and Christopher de-escalated from what I said to him, not because of what I did to him, not because I was giving him a timeout, which feels to me like I'm doing something to Christopher.
Yeah.
And I moved away from reacting by doing to reacting intellectually and verbally to Christopher.
And emotionally.
And emotionally, yes. And I also have to say that the Pocket Coach that you wrote, I did not read the book because I don't have time to read, but I listened to the CD. I listened to the CD over and over again in my car, and it made me feel really good. So I highly recommend getting the Pocket Coach, and if you don't have time to read the book, listen to the CD and listen to it over and over again, and share it with your family so they understand the kind of parenting that you're going to start doing after you work with Tina, because it's different than the traditional old-fashioned way of disciplining, which I wasn't effective at.
The Pocket Coach for Parents, your 2-week guide to a dramatically improved life with your intense child. That's the whole name of that book. It's long.
Great book.
The Pocket Coach for Parents. That's all you have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
So now talk about what it's like with Christopher in your life these days.
Well, I'll give you an example. This just happened about 2 nights ago. I was giving Christopher and Jeffrey a bath. William, Jeffrey's twin brother, was downstairs with Daddy, and I was getting them ready for bed. And I could tell that Christopher was having a very hard time interacting with Jeffrey. So I'm not trying to tell you that the bad behavior is gone per se, but I know how to intercept it now. And one of the things that Tina has shared with me is being more objective and looking at your child like your child is an organism, almost as if this is a scientific experiment. And all you have to do is, what is the organism doing now? What is the organism telling me? And at that moment in time, that evening, the organism was telling me that he needed a break and that being with Jeffrey was too overstimulating. And because he wasn't able to play with Jeffrey, he wasn't able to, he was pushing Jeffrey around, he wasn't being kind to him. And I didn't have to have that last for 45 minutes. I noticed right away, oh, the organism needs a break and is overstimulated. So what I did, I said to Christopher, why don't you go into your bedroom and take a break, and I'll give Jeffrey a bath, and you can work at your desk. And so he said, okay, and he went in the room, and I actually closed the door.
And I just want you to talk about how he would not have said okay in the past. That was a new thing, right?
That was brand new. I mean, for him to even be willing to go into his room and be separated from his brother, even though he wasn't able to function well with his brother, he would be very defiant with me about that. And if I put him in his room because he needed some time apart from them, he would be so angry that when I would come in 5 minutes later, all the blankets would be off his bed, the sheets would be off his bed, the mattress pad would be pulled off the bed, and the mattress. He would pull the mattress off the box spring and pull it onto the floor. Then he would go over to his bookcase and he would pull all the books out of the bookcase, and those would be all over the floor. So I'd walk in the room, and the room was just decimated. And I was so triggered into anger when I saw that, which is the last thing your child really needs from you is an angry response. But when that was happening, I was just so mad. And so for him to say, okay, I'll go into my room, and for him to accept my suggestion of working at his desk was like, wow, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. And Jeffrey took a bath, and it was about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Christopher willingly came out of his room after the 15 minutes. He had been at his desk, and he showed Jeffrey and me the picture that he drew, which was a picture of a fish. It was a pretty big picture of a complex fish because he had been at zoo camp earlier that day, and the first day of zoo camp was oceans and fish. And so I was just blown away, Tina, that not only did he not decimate his room and destroy his room, he went to his desk, he drew a picture of something he had learned earlier that day, so he was processing something that had happened to him, and I was so happy about that. And Jeffrey liked the picture, and then Jeffrey was willing to get out of the bath, and he got in the bath, and it was a very different experience and very positive, and it felt good. Christopher, when he rejoined us, he was ready to come back and rejoin us, I could tell. So one of the things I've learned about my intense child, is that he does need these short periods, not long periods, of time by himself in his room that is soothing for him. And it makes him feel good when I now know that about him, and it's a relief for him to hear that as his mother I can suggest to him, I think let's go to your room for a little while so you can have a break. And he'll start walking right up to his room. He doesn't even fight me on that anymore. And so all of this behavior, I think, comes from feeling very secure in his relationship with me.
Yes.
And very confident and very loved by us, by my husband. I am, at every moment that I can possibly think of throughout the day, sharing positive observations about Christopher to Christopher.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing this for 8 months, he feels good about himself, and he feels very secure in his role in the family and his place in the family. And it's boiled down to me that the intense behavior and the bad behavior was based on insecurity on his part. And where does he fit in now that the twin brothers are here? And who am I? And I used to be the only child, and now you are with them and you're not with me anymore. And I have to do something about this. And I have to get your attention. And I don't know how to express myself. The only way I think I can get your attention is by being really naughty.
Yeah. And now you're getting your attention by being fabulous. It's just, yeah, the true Christopher.
Well, one of the moments that I remember about my coaching session with you is it was time to go to bed again. Bedtime is a hard time. And William was with Christopher that time, and Jeffrey was gone, and it was William and Christopher and we were going to go upstairs, and he ran to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, got the honey out of the refrigerator or out of the cupboard, and he squeezed all the honey out onto the kitchen floor. And I went into the kitchen and I asked him, why did you do this, Christopher? What is wrong? Why would you do something like that? Or he runs to the refrigerator, opens it up, and takes the tortillas and throws them up in the air, and they go out of the package, and he's taking our food and throwing it around the kitchen. And I went to Tina the day after this happened. I was just beside myself. And when you said, what I want you to say to Christopher the next time this happens is go and get eye level with him and say to him, Christopher, I think you're trying to tell me something. But so I'm going to guess at what you're trying to tell me. And all you have to say is yes or no. So I've been doing this with Christopher ever since you told me that. And sometimes it irritates him. Mommy, I don't want to hear the list. But a lot of times he'll sit and listen to my ideas. And he'll say, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. But sometimes by the fourth or fifth reason I come up with why he's acting this way, he'll say, yes, that's why I was doing that. And a lot of times my reasons are, I think you feel really jealous, Christopher, and you feel upset because you want me to put you to bed, and William is here. And so you think that I'm going to go to William and just put you in your room by yourself. And so you're upset about that, and you don't know what's going to happen when we go upstairs. And I didn't say anything about it. And so the next time that you feel that way, all you have to tell me is, Mommy, I'm worried about how bedtime is going to be because I want you to be with me, and William is going to want you to be with me.
You just gave a beautiful example of direct expression of the feelings so that he doesn't have to express them indirectly by throwing the tortillas and squeezing the honey on the floor, right?
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that is so healing for a child. They want to be seen, right? They want to be seen.
It seems like that is the cornerstone to the relationship.
Yes. So now you see him, and now he's bubbled to the surface as his true self, so he goes calmly into his room when there's an upset, draws a picture, and comes out and shows it to you 15 minutes later.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I'm here, because I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited that in our culture, in this day and age, that I could get help. And it's specific help for my situation. There's a million parenting books that people can read. And there's a lot of parenting classes, but they're so broad. They're set in a very broad place. And I needed to tell Tina about my marriage, about my home life, and about my child. And I needed help specifically with that scenario. Not maybe having the information in Chapter 9 of raising a spirited child applied to me.
Right.
And try to make it apply to me
Yeah.
when it does and it doesn't.
Yeah, that's why we refer to parent coaching as personalized parent education. You know, it's specific to your situation.
Yes, specific to our situation. And this is what has brought more peace and harmony to our home. And last Sunday, the same set of grandparents that we were with last summer were on the patio, and the ice cream truck came by. And Christopher had just eaten a brownie, and there's no way I was going to buy him any ice cream.
Yeah.
And he started having a fit. He wanted ice cream. He's whining. He's crying. He's running to Daddy. And my husband didn't know what to say. Grandma and Grandpa are sitting right there. And he came over to me, and he's whining, and he wants it, and he's crying, and just sort of throwing his body on me. And I'm saying, Christopher, let me tell you something. I felt the very same way when I was 5 years old and I heard the ice cream truck in my neighborhood. Every time I heard the ice cream truck, I wanted ice cream. It didn't matter if I had just eaten. It didn't matter if I just had. I always wanted ice cream, and my mom always said no, because my mom always made us apple juice popsicles, and that's the only thing I could ever have is the apple juice popsicle, apple juice, and I never got to have ice cream from the ice cream truck. So I know how you feel, Christopher, but my answer is still no. You can't get any ice cream.
Beautiful.
And he looked at me, and he straightened up, and he walked away. He didn't say a word. He walked away, and he got on the swing, and he started swinging. I didn't have to put him in a timeout. I didn't have to scold him for acting that way. I didn't have to scold him or shame him for wanting ice cream after he just had a brownie, or saying, all the old ways I think I would have reacted. I didn't have to feel embarrassed in front of Grandma and Grandpa that my child is whining.
Oh, huge.
So these are the types of exchanges that are going on now in our house that work much better. And just last night, he had been with my husband all day and all night, and it was bedtime, and he had seen me since the first time since noon, and I was reading him a story. I was reading all three of them a story, and it was my turn to put William and Jeffrey to bed. It was Daddy's turn to put Christopher to bed, which is another thing we've worked out with Tina, is alternating nights. And Christopher looked right at me, and he whimpered a little bit, and he said, "But Mom, I've only been able to spend 5 minutes with you." And it was a profound moment for me, because I realized that he is now learning how to identify his emotions and verbalize his emotions to me.
Oh.
As I was modeling that to him for the past 5 months, now he is saying, "Oh, all I have to do is say how I feel to my mom right now." And because she understands how I feel, probably because I've been always saying to him, "I think you're doing this because you feel this way, or that way." And so I was able to switch gears with my husband and say, "I'm going to put Christopher to bed. You put the twins to bed." Okay. So Christopher and I put Christopher to bed. And I could show him the colored pencil that I got him at lunch that day, and he drew a picture at his desk instead of reading a book, and that was just as fulfilling for him.
Yeah. Caroline and I are going to talk about the definition of discipline, and she was talking about how her sister used to say, "You need to discipline your child," when referring to Christopher, right?
Yes, a lot of people would say that to me. "You need to discipline him. He needs to be disciplined." And I do not know how to discipline. I am not good at disciplining, and the disciplining that I would do would never work, because I think I was disciplining, and the same old problem would just pop right back the very next day or the very next hour. And all this discipline was like pouring water through a bucket, and there's no bottom of the bucket. It's just going right down, and it wasn't working. And his behavior he was not responding to me as, "Oh, good, now I've disciplined. Look at my well-behaved child, because I've disciplined him so well."
Right.
And so
it was not having the effect you were looking for.
No.
When you just said, "Christopher, you have to, you must, Mom said," that kind of thing.
And, timeouts, and what is classic discipline? I don't know, on the count of 3, if you don't come over here on the count of 3, you're going to have a timeout. Or my mind doesn't even come up with the strategies, but I think we all know them. Go to your room. Mm-hmm. I think the word discipline is synonymous with banishment. Mm-hmm. Basically, banish your kids. They have to go to their room. They have to be grounded. It's all under that umbrella of banish your child and shame and make him feel bad. Right. In a way.
So when I gave you tips, it was...
I was so relieved to get my first session with you, and I was so relieved that we weren't going to have this relationship where you're telling me to do something I simply don't know how to do and can't do. Yeah. But you told me to do something. I can do this. I can do your method. It comes very naturally and very easily to me. And what I mean by that is when you say to me, "Caroline, what I want you to tell Christopher is The next time you see Christopher, say to Christopher, Christopher, do you have a minute? I want to tell you something. And, Christopher, do you have a minute? I want to tell you something. Today, I noticed when you shared your peanut butter and jelly sandwich with Jeffrey, when you weren't finished with your lunch and he was done with his lunch, and you shared your sandwich because he still was hungry, that made me feel so proud of you. And at that moment, I felt like you really have a loving heart. And I just wanted to take a minute and tell you that. I mean, that comes so easily to me, and I can say that to Christopher. I can do that. And I truly believe that is Parenting Mojo's version of discipline.
Yes.
That's how you are coaching me to discipline my child.
And the root word of discipline is to teach. And so you're teaching him what to do, what works well, what he's good at, and
so he wants to do that more.
Yes, exactly.
So I point out what he's good at through the course of the day or at the end of the night, and he then feels like he's getting the energy match from me on the good behavior, which is exactly what you're telling us to do.
Exactly.
As a parent now, I am joining the ranks of parents that are saying, I'm having so much fun with my child. I'm having so much fun with my child.
And
so thank you, Tina.
So welcome.
And I was so distraught over my child. I can't even tell you. And I was so worried about him. Does he have autism? Does he have, what's wrong? Is there something wrong? Does he need a therapist? And by me getting help, I have been able to bring out the best in him.
Congratulations.
And he's only 5 years old,
yeah.
So
yeah.
He doesn't need a therapist, and he doesn't have autism.
He needed a mom who really knew how to connect with him, and you're it.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you again so much for being here and helping us with this taping.
Oh.
I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
ParentingMojo.com is the website if you're interested in looking up some more interesting stories about parent coaching. Take a look. Thank you so much for your time.